Well, welcome to Defy the Odds Sunday. If you're visiting with us, I know this is not typical. The people that are here every week, they know that. And some of you are thinking, what is Defy the Odds Sunday? What is that all about? Well, for years and years, people have asked for Pastor Benny. We've heard the stories of his life and just how he got to here, but he's never put it into a book. And so he's finally done that. And not just his story, but also our story of how we got to here. How did the church go from a little bit of nothing to this? And so that story's there, but also not just that story, but it ends with your story and about how God wants to do great things in your life. And today is a private family release for just our Rock Springs Church family, something Pastor Benny was adamant about, wanted us to be able to get it before it is nationwide. It is published nation and worldwide. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal. So it'll go all over the world in January, and but it's not going to go all over the world before it goes right here and to all of you. So we're going to get into some of that, but I want to tell you, of course, you know who Pastor Benny is, and yeah, that's good. And beside him is Miss Brittany McKneely. Miss Brittany has been a part of our church for 20 years. 20 years. And she started in our student ministry. And from there, you met your husband, Pastor Taylor. And you guys have been married how long?
12 years.
12 years. You got two boys.
Two boys, Knox and Nash.
Knox and Nash. And so she helped Pastor Benny and wrote the book along with him. And then Miss Barbara Tate over there on the end. And that response has happened 3 services in a row, Pastor Benny. I don't know. But we're so honored. A lot of you know her name, but you haven't got to see her because she's in the background and right where she wants to be, I think. But they have been married for over 37 years. They have been married. And it's great. And certainly I know, Pastor Benny, you said you got married just as kids.
I've often said, Kim, we were so young when we got married, we didn't know whether to go on a honeymoon or summer camp. We were just two little old young people that got married, like I said, as kids.
We actually have a photo of you guys when you were married right there. We were able to get one early copy there. And
I can't see it real good, but that could be us. I can't see it real good because the lady's mouth is shut and the guy's mouth is open. So that could be us.
Yeah, so that actually, I'm just kidding. We actually have a real one. So that's Miss Barbara there. And then this is Benny and Barbara heading out. Just got through giving each other a good kiss there, pronouncing that marriage. And so that's when they really were just getting started on those 37 years for certain. So I know many of us know it's a big deal for you to get Miss Barbara here.
Yes.
In this seat at this time, in this moment. And so how in the world did you accomplish that?
Well, I can tell you this. Last night late, I was in shoe stores hunting blue shoes. I'll tell you what. I was hunting blue shoes because we had to have blue shoes to go with the new dress that I promised her if she would do this. No, the truth is, Cameron, I said that in jest, but Barbara, this is not Barbara. She has no desire to do this. She never has in all the years that we've been doing it. She's never done this in all the years that we've been. She's never done it one time. But we talked about it. I didn't talk about it. Actually, Amy Varner mentioned it and mentioned doing this. And Barbara said when Amy said that, she said, I felt like God say to me, you're supposed to do that. And so she's here today to do this simply because she believes that it would be pleasing to the Lord for her to do that. That's her only reason for doing it.
That's one.
And so we saw the photo when you guys got married, and I know when you got started, you guys literally didn't have anything, and you started out very small.
Cameron, I wouldn't give this advice to anybody, but when Barbara and I got married, we didn't own a piece of furniture. Let me explain. We had good families. I'm not knocking our families, but our families basically said, if you want to get married, that's your decision, get married. But sink or swim, it's you. So we got married. We didn't own one piece of furniture. You say, what did you do? Well, we moved into a furnished trailer. A furnished trailer. That was it right there. You could drop your handkerchief down and have carpet wall to wall. I mean, it was Literally, that's what we lived in. It was fully furnished with the furniture. You can see the outside of the trailer. You can kind of imagine what the furniture was like on the inside. But we got married, went on a honeymoon 30 miles from where we live one night, came back home, and just had no resources. And we'd been married 4 or 5 days, and Barbara's an immaculate, Cameron, you've been like a son. You've been in our home many, many times. She's an immaculate housekeeper. That is to say, if I get up during the night and use the restroom, she remakes the bed. I mean, you know what I'm trying to say. And so we'd been married 3 or 4 days, and she said to me, I need to get some Pine Sol. I said, okay. She said, I need to buy a bottle of Pine Sol. And she could tell I just had a look about me. And she said, do you not have any money for Pine Sol? And I said, well, I don't have any money now, but I will Friday when I get paid. And I looked at her and I said, Barbara, you didn't marry me thinking I had money, did you? And I'll never forget what she said. This is what she said to me.
I thought you had a little bit.
She said, I thought you had a little bit. And I literally had none. I mean, it was cornmeal, oatmeal, miss a meal. Amen. I mean, we went to Kentucky Fried Chicken to lick somebody else's fingers. Amen. We had nothing. I mean,
That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So I know, obviously, that this book goes far beyond just your story, and there's so much about the book that we're not going to be able to get to today. But I know you told me, too, that you wanted the people to understand that it's not just a book about a man.
Here's what I've said from day one. I do not, and I say to you today, I do not want it to be about a man in any way. No way about a man. I want it to be about a message that will motivate a movement. I want it to be about a message that will motivate a movement. And what I mean by that is, in your life, you can defy the odds. You can defy the odds. You say, how can I do it, Pastor Benny? We can do all things through Christ, which strengthen us. Amen? So I want it to be a message that motivates a movement. Because if it's about a man, it begins and ends with a man. But if it's about a movement, transformation can take place.
Absolutely. And now you were adamant, I know, early on when the publisher decided they were going to pick the book up, and that there was an opportunity for our people, for the Rock Springs people, to get this book early. And if you're in our room, you can get it here in our foyers, or they can go to dtobook.com. But you were saying that they were a little resistant to that, and you were telling them.
Right. Well, first of all, this book is with a national publisher, Harvest House Publishing, out of Oregon. And, I didn't have a lot of bargaining power, but I just felt like what God was leading me to do. One thing I said, I want it to be in paperback. The reason why I was adamant I wanted it to be in paperback, I want the waitress to be able to afford the book too. I want the waitress. I want the custodian. I started out as a janitor. I want the custodian to be able to afford the book. Also, they said the national release is going to be on January the 4th. I said, well, that's wonderful, but I want the people of Rock Springs Church. There is no book without the people of Rock Springs Church. I want them to have first access to the book, and I want them to have the book at a different price than the nation would have. And they said, we'll have to talk to you later about that, but I can be pretty convincing, and you know what I'm trying to say. And they came back and consented to do that, because this book is not about one person. It's about a group of people.
That's right. So let me ask you, I know people may be wondering, Defy the Odds, why this book, why this message, why now? Of all the years, why now?
Well, I would probably sum that up, Cameron, with a story. We had a governor here in Georgia named Zell Miller. I only met Zell Miller one time in my life. But I met Zell Miller, and I asked him a question. I said, Governor Miller, you were lieutenant governor for 16 years. Why did you wait 16 years to run for governor? And I'll never forget what he said. He said, I never thought I was ready. I never thought I was ready. And you know, Cameron, I'm 56 years old for a couple more days. And the reason why I waited, I really never thought I was ready. I really never thought I had a whole lot to share. See, I'm convinced we go through seasons of life. Every one of us in this room, the first season of life is the receive season of life. For me, I was trying to learn. For me, I was going to a conference or I was going to a church. I was reading everything I could. I was trying to receive. And then I moved to the second phase of life, and that's the raise phase of life. Barbara and I were trying to raise a family. I was trying to raise a budget. I was trying to raise up buildings around here. I was trying to raise up leaders. You start with the receive stage of life. You move to the raise stage of life. But then I feel like now at almost 57, the release stage of life. I really feel like I have something to give back. And just to be transparent with you, Cameron, early on, I didn't think I had a whole lot to give back. I didn't think and maybe I don't have a whole lot now to give back, but I certainly have more to give back now than I did 15 or 20 years ago.
Oh, there's no doubt. And you told me that in this story and along the way, all throughout your life, God has used different people along the way to really help you to get over some the obstacles that you face. I know, Brittany, that's kind of as you came into this picture as far as writing the book. I know a lot of people are wondering how in the world, what was it like to write a book for Benny Tate or with Benny Tate? That had to be amazingly awesome.
It was amazingly awesome and a little scary.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And so just why you? How did you get to this point? Have you written books? How did we get here?
None. I have no experience. But one day, you and Pastor Benny and my husband Taylor were driving down the road, and Pastor Benny mentioned, like you said, a lot of people we need your story. When are you going to write your story? And so he started thinking about it and said, I think I'm going to start writing a book. And my husband decided to speak up and say, Brittany would love to help you write your book. And I thought, really? I don't know when that's going to happen. I was in my 9th year of teaching and had a full-time job and kids, and I didn't know where that was going to fit in my schedule. So I was, worried about that. But then also, I know his story had the potential to impact lives and that God could just use it in a mighty way. So, that's a weight. It was a little scary. Get it right. And then, then when a publisher wanted to pick it up after reading 1 or 2 chapters, I thought, what if the next chapters aren't that great? So it was, kind of scary along the way. But I remember that same year telling God that, whatever you ask me to do, Lord, I'm going to say yes. And if you tell the Lord you're going to do something, He will give you the opportunity to follow through. And so, I just was determined to be obedient. And I really feel like through this whole process, He taught me that, just because you're afraid, that doesn't disqualify you from God's work. And that, if God's calling you into something, just trust Him. Just dive in. Even when you're scared, don't wait to get the confidence. Just dive in, because He will use that. And when you do that, only He gets the glory for it.
Absolutely, that's a great word. And so I know it was not only fearful for you, but there's all kinds of stories where, Pastor Benny, you went through just fearful times in your own life and opportunities for failure and failures. And I know that you talk about that some, but how have you pushed past the fear in your own life?
Well, I think a foundation has to be for all people that you are going to fail. You're going to fail. And you've only really failed when you quit trying. So, I talk a lot about here being pastor of Rock Springs for almost 32 years now. And I talk about the second church I pastored, but I don't talk a lot about the first church I pastored. And the reason why I don't talk a whole lot about it, it's pretty painful, because it doesn't exist now. And I've always believed that it would probably still be in existence if I was a better leader. I know some mistakes that I made during my leadership there. But also I know this, Cameron. I don't think I would be the pastor today that I am if I had not failed in the very first church. And what I would say to people, it's okay to fail. It's okay. Failure is an event. It's not a person. Just get back up and realize failure is a part of life. Failure helps us to alleviate really many times what we shouldn't be doing. Amen? It helps us to alleviate what we shouldn't be doing and what we should be doing. And I guess to simplify it a little bit, I tell people when you fall down, pick up something. When you fall down, pick up something. It's what you learn from that failure. So Winston Churchill said, the secret to success in life is to move from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. So what I would say to you, hey, listen, you're going to fail some. That's okay, but get right back up. God's got a great plan. I'll tell you this, if Cameron and I would sum it up like this. If there's any good thing about me, if there's any good thing, if there's a quality you would say, that's a good quality about Pastor Benny. Whatever you deem there is a good quality, I will promise you this, it came out of failure. Most of the things I've learned in life, I learned from failure. I didn't learn from success. So failure can be your best friend if you would just allow it to be.
That's good. Now, I know, Miss Barbara, this is not just his story. This is your story as well. And you also, we talked about married young. And in 1990, you left the hills of Tennessee with a 25-year-old guy who's just been able to afford Pine Sol.
That's it.
We got her now, though, don't we?
We got her now.
Got it now. So got the Pine Sol now, and you come to Georgia. You'd never left Tennessee, so you had no family here.
No.
There was no connection. Just God was leading you to here.
To here.
And I think we got a picture of the first Sunday. This is the first Sunday.
Yeah.
That's the first Sunday. Pastor Benny, 25-year-old.
Oh, me to have that color hair once again. Well, I guess I could. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, just for men.
You know.
Everybody's doing it.
Where do you get it, Cam?
Aging gracefully.
Hey, Cameron, you know what I didn't say in the other services? Here's what I thought about first. Barbara actually told me first before I did, you're supposed to come, here's the pastor. And I said, I rebuke you, devil. But she saw it before I did, and she said, no, I really believe that. And I often, if you've heard Benny Tate quote, I say, when we don't listen to our wives, we miss 50% of what God's trying to tell us. And but she saw it before I did. And again, we were just kids, and we just came here, and we started small and thought tall. Believed that God could do great things, and He has.
Yes,
Now, I know that in that process, certainly it was God's will. We look around and we see how that was God's will.
Yes.
But I know that God's will is not always just smooth sailing. And you guys came in 1990, and I know, Miss Barbara, it wasn't too long after that you faced a very difficult time, maybe the most difficult time in your life. And do you mind sharing some of that?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Back in 1992, I was wanting a baby real bad, and that's really what I dreamed, is to be a wife and a mother. And so we tried for 9 years to have a baby, and that dream just wasn't coming true, Cameron. And so I went to this doctor, and he did a surgery on me, and he came out and told me that day, he came out and said, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to have a baby. And so Benny said that day, he said, I saw that you started downhill. You know, I lost all hope that day, Cameron. All hope. We went home, and I went to bed, and I quit eating, and I wanted to die. I just didn't care about living anymore. Just really, I can't even explain how deep I was in. But I had such a good husband who stayed with me and told me, said, I'm not going to let you die on me. I'm going to help you through this. And he did just that. He went out and he got a Christian counselor And that Christian counselor talked with me, and Benny would go with me. And that Christian counselor said, I want you to get out and walk and eat vegetables and drink water. And Benny would fix for me. And I remember on a lot of rainy days, I'd be so down and I'd think, I can't go walk. But Benny said, yes, we can. We're going to go down to inside the sanctuary and walk. And he would encourage me and tell me that you're going to get through this, and I'm going to help you get through this. But he did. He said, a bend in the road's not an end in the road. And it was that we filed for adoption, and this was amazing to me. We filed for adoption, and 9 months from the time we filed, we had this baby girl, Savannah. That was God. I mean, to God be the glory, because I know He did that for us. Even, I remember, I was telling them earlier, I remember we really didn't have no money to adopt, and it was going to cost us $10,000. And we'd saved up just a little, but the church took up just the right amount to make up for that $10,000. And you can tell me that's God. That's God. God is so good, and you can defy the odds. You can.
Miss Barbara's going to be preaching next Sunday.
Amen.
Actually, so.
Amen. Amen. I'll lead the singing.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
He is good. The Lord is good.
He is good. Yes, He is. And so, I mean, even in those dark times, I know that was a defining moment for your life.
Yes.
But along with that came a defining moment for your life. Pastor Benny, tell us that.
Well, you know, I can, Barbara has always, you know, I am convinced if a person has had any kind of success in their life, it's probably because a lot of people wanted it. You don't, you know, when you see a turtle on a fence post, it didn't get there by itself. You know, I mean, you don't get there by yourself. And Barbara always wanted my dreams to come true, and I wanted her dream to come true. You know, I wanted her, she wanted to get married, she wanted to have children. I don't know that I even should tell this. I don't know. I won't tell that. But anyway, I wanted her dream to come true. And to a certain extent, Cameron, I felt like a failure because Barbara went to the Mayo Clinic because of seizures, and the Mayo Clinic said there's no reason why she can't have a baby. There's no reason why she can't. So I felt like probably the problem was me. And so I spent years just really trying hard because I wanted her to have a baby so bad. And the Lord worked it out, didn't He, Barbara?
Yes, He did.
He worked it out. But I remember, Cameron, I'll tell you this right quickly. When she was going through that real difficult time, I was trying to take care of my wife, but I wasn't doing a real good job as pastor. And so I went to the church board. There were 5 men who had hired me. And I went to those men and I said, I know I've been here not too long, but I'm going to resign Sunday morning. This was on a Thursday. I said, I'm going to resign. You all need a pastor. I'm preoccupied. My mind's preoccupied. I'm going to take my wife back home. She's been in bed. My wife has been in bed for 6 months. My wife has lost 60 pounds. My wife won't eat. We're just the end of our road. I said, so I need to resign. You all need a good pastor. And if I live to be 100, I'll never forget those men. They were 5 men. It was Alvis Butler, Howard Niblett, Don Thomas, Jim Landers, and Sammy Pelt. And I said, men, I'm gone. And when I said that, those grown men, here I was in my 20s and they were in their 50s. And they started crying. They started crying. And those men said to me, don't resign. Take off a year. Take off a year. When you come back, your job will be here. We'll help with your wife. We'll help financially. Please don't resign. We'll do anything. And I remember that day, I was just a kid, but I thought, they see something in me that I don't see in me. I don't see what they see is special because I didn't see anything special. But I said, goodness gracious, if they love me that much, nobody's ever going to love me like that. And that's why, to be honest, folks, I've just stayed 32 years because nobody's ever going to love me like that. And so I've just stayed. And so when we're celebrating this day, you know, Alvis Butler's in heaven. Don Thomas is in heaven.
Yes.
Jim Landers is in heaven. So there might not even be a Benny Tate still here had it not been for 5 men who were genuine leaders, who did what they believed was best for the church and encouraged a young person. Maybe that's my motivation today, to try to encourage young people, because I had somebody who did me.
There's no doubt. And we thank God for those men, because none of this would be here were it not for those men. And I know that this book, as we've said, it's not just your story or even Barbara's story. I know you've been adamant from the beginning that you wanted this story to ultimately lead to how people can defy the odds, that that's God's plan for them in their life. And so how can people listening, how can they take that message and apply that to their life?
Cameron, what I would say to every person listening to me is you can defy the odds in your life. You know, John Calipari is the coach of the Kentucky basketball team. For some reason, John Calipari and I developed a relationship. I don't know really what Coach Cal and I had in common, but as Barbara, you know, Coach Cal and I became friends.
Yes.
And Coach Cal wrote an endorsement for my book. I'll never forget what he wrote. He sent it back to me and he said, you know, some people were born on third base and they act like they hit a triple. But he said, you know, Benny Tate, he wasn't even in the stadium. He wasn't even in the stadium. Folks, I want you to know I wasn't in the stadium. I wasn't in the stadium. But you know, I thought about, I don't know if he felt like I felt. I don't know if I felt like he felt, but I thought about David. Did you ever think about David in the Bible, the man after God's own heart? Did you ever think about this? Nobody believed in David. God said, I want you to go down to Jesse's house and anoint the next king. And Jesse brought 7 boys out there and said, it's got to be one of these. It's got to be one of these, Samuel. And Samuel said, no. And you know what breaks my heart? Jesse never even mentioned David. It was Samuel who said, don't you have another one? Don't you have one more? Because he never even mentioned David. His daddy didn't believe in him. His brothers didn't believe in him. They said, you're just a nosy runt. Saul, his boss, didn't believe in him. Goliath sure didn't believe in him. He said, I'm going to tear your head off and feed you to the birds. But I want you to know, God believed in David. Folks, let me tell you something. God's opinion of you is more important than anybody else's opinion of you. God's opinion of you is more important than anybody else's opinion. There's a verse in Psalms 56:9 says, this I know, God is for me. And sometimes I just get my Bible out and I'll read that verse. This I know, God is for me. And I want you to know, God is for you today also. God is for you. God is for you. Now, I'm just an ordinary person. I'm not good with my hands. I'm not talented. Have no real abilities. None. But you know, in 1 Samuel 16 and 13, Samuel comes down there and pours a horn of oil on David. And the Bible says from that point on, the Spirit of God came upon David. I want to share something with you folks. The Spirit of God will open doors for you that you can't open on your own. The Spirit of God will take you places that you can't go on your own. The Spirit of God will do things for you, ladies. You believe what you want to believe, but I know I've lived long enough to know there's something about the favor and the presence of God that makes a difference in people's lives. I just want you to realize today, the power of God inside of you and living through you makes all the difference in the world. Quit beating yourself up. Quit putting yourself down. Greater is He that's in you than he that's in the world. And if God be for us, who can be against us? And God is for us. You know something else I've realized? David was a king. Saul was the king before David. And you know how many giant killers there were in Saul's army? 0. You know how many giant killers there were in David's army? 4. Because see, David killed giants. Brittany said she was a teacher. We may teach what we know, but we reproduce what we are. We teach what we know, but we reproduce what we are. And what I hope Defy the Odds does, I hope you take this book and you say, my goodness, if God can do it with just an ordinary guy, just an ordinary boy that wasn't even supposed to exist, wasn't even supposed to exist. I tell a story in the book. I tell a story. I told my mother I was writing the book, and she said, boy, I don't know if you know it, but when you was in my womb, I was with a man, and he took me to a facility. It was a medical facility, and it was dark and drabby and not nice. And I said to that man, what are we here for? And he said, oh, we're going to take care of that baby in your belly. And she said, Benny, I ran out of that place screaming and crying and saying, nobody's going to kill my baby. Nobody's going to kill my baby. Nobody's going to kill my baby. See, folks, they're accidental. They're accidental parents. But they're no accidental children, because God's got a plan for every one of us. God's got a plan for every one of us. I'd probably say this is what I hope the book does. This is what I really hope it does. I really hope it impacts people. Sheriffs are calling me. Sheriffs are calling me from all over, wanting to know, can they buy 250 copies of the book? Can I buy X amount of copies of the books? And I said, what are the sheriffs wanting the book for? They said, Pastor, we want you to come. We want you to walk the jail with us. We want you to look inmates in the eye. We want you to give inmates the book, because we believe this book has the potential to defy the odds and change people's lives. (1954), medicine and science said that the 4-minute mile was impossible. 1954, it was impossible. But there was a Brit by the name of Roger Bannister. And in 1954, Roger Bannister, he ran the 4-minute mile. He ran the 4-minute mile. What happened after that? In the next 10 years, 300 people ran the 4-minute mile, because one man defied the odds. It said to people, you can defy the odds too. I pray this book says to every person, you can defy the odds.